Okay, so chapter one again is just an introduction, just to have an idea about the expectations and what to know, just the basics. So these are the learning outcomes. You guys can read it, what to expect, what's anatomy, what's physiology, the different body organs, and so on. This is just an introduction. For the learning outcomes, you guys can take a look at it, but it's basically telling you what are we going to do. And we are going to use this technique to understand and remember. You can read it. And here is the first thing, the definition. What does it mean in the first place? What's anatomy and what's physiology? So anatomy is basically structure, something that you can see, your muscles, your bones. This is the bone, this is the muscle. This is anatomy. So it's basically structure. Physiology is function. Together, structure and function. And this is what anatomy physiology is all about. Human anatomy specifically, there are different types. Gross anatomy is the one that we're doing, or the one that's macro. Macro means large. Macroscopic anatomy, it's the visible structures. We're not going to see something like under the microscope. That will be histology. We're doing something that we can actually see, like what we do in the lab. Bones, this is the femur, this is the humerus, and so on. So different parts, different surface anatomy, what you can feel and see. A regional anatomy, we will discuss that. Like this region, what's the name of this region? The different sections. We will understand the different systems in our body, and so on. This is just an introduction, as opposed to microscopic. And let me say from day one again, if you guys know medical terminology, is going to help you. If you don't, that's okay. I'm going to cover you. I will tell you exactly what to expect, because unlike English, Greek and Latin is nothing but prefixes and suffixes. And you put them together, you can actually make up a name. Not make up, understand. Even if this is your first time ever to see that word, you can understand what it is. Just if you know prefixes and suffixes, put them together. This is not English. I will show you what I mean. Like here is microscopic. Micro means very tiny, right? Micro, this is a prefix, you will use it a lot. Okay? Microtubules, micro anything else. You put it beside something, it will make sense. So this is cytology and histology. We will be touching base on this just in physiology, not anatomy. Human physiology is the physiology of our own body. We will discuss that again. This is all introduction. What do we mean by signs and symptoms? Uh, Signs means what we can see. Symptoms is what you describe. Like you go to the doctor, I have pain, this is symptoms. And then when he actually examine and see, this is called signs. And we are going to use a scientific method. This is something that you guys should have covered, or I'm assuming you covered already in general biology. Okay, so starting from here, this is something that we need to understand, because this is what we're going to actually cover. We are going to start from the smallest unit. This is what we're doing chapter after chapter. We're going to start from the chemical level. This is the smallest level. Starting from the atom, we have a lot to talk about. The smallest stable unit of matter, this is the atom, and we will talk about it. You put atoms together, you make molecules. And this is the chemical level. Cellular level is the next level, okay? Like this, like I get brick. This is the smallest unit in building your house. I put the bricks together, you make a wall. You put the walls together, you make a room. You put the rooms together, you build a house, right? So the brick here is atoms. You put the atoms together, molecules. Group of molecules together, this is going to make one cell. We will discuss all of that. And this is the smallest living unit in the body. Okay? You should remember this one. Okay, smallest living unit of the body. How about molecules? Molecules are not living, right? Living, and this is general biology, right? This is a prerequisite. So you guys should remember this. Molecules. No, molecules is not something living. What's living can breathe, you can do metabolism, you can move, and all that stuff. If you put a group of cells together, that's going to make tissue. If you put group of tissues together, that will make an organ. It's two or more working together. And then a group of organs, we call it the organ system. We will discuss all of this. And if you put all the organ systems together, that's the whole organism. Our organism is obviously the human body. Okay? So here is an example. Atoms, this is the smallest unit. You put the atoms together. In this example here, you put the atoms together, you make like protein. So this is the molecule level. And then you put molecules together that's going to make cells. Like in this one, it is one cell of the heart, one muscle. Here is one cell, here is one cell, here is one cell, group of cells together. This is tissue, cardiac tissue, like muscle tissue. You put the tissues together, different types of tissues together, you make an organ. Like here, heart is an organ. Arteries, this is an organ, artery. Vein, that's an organ. Group of organs together, that will make one system. All the systems, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, digestive system, if you put all the systems together, that's going to make the organism, and our organism is the human body, human being. We are not going to spend much time here. It's an introduction. You guys can read it. But we are going to cover integumentary system, skeletal system, muscular system, and nervous system, AP1. Integumentary system is integument. We will discuss the details. Again, still introduction. Integument means the body cover, skin, and anything related to the skin. We call it integumentary. Skeletal, skeleton, bones. We will discuss everything about the bones and joints. Muscular system, all these muscles. Skeletal muscles, these muscles that you move voluntarily, plus heart muscles, cardiac muscles, involuntary, and other muscles like in your organs, in your stomach, in your intestine, and so on, muscular system. And then we will discuss the nervous system, brain, spinal cord, and different nerves. The rest, endocrine system, this is AP2. It's basically talking about these glands that secrete hormones and all the details. Cardiovascular system, everything else is AP2. Cardiovascular system, cardio is a prefix that means heart, heart. So if you see it later, cardiomegaly, the heart is large. Cardiopathy, the heart is thick, and so on. The heart is sick, and so on, okay? Lymphatic system, respiratory system, digestive system, urinary system, reproductive, male and female, all of this is AP2. So only integumentary, skeletal, muscular, and nervous system. These are the four systems for AP1. Everything else is AP2. Okay? Lymphatic system, the body defense. Respiratory system, lung and bronchial tree. Digestive system, starting from the mouth, passing through all this tract, ending at the anus, and all these accessory structures like liver and spleen, and so on. Urinary system, our kidneys would be covered. Bladder, reproductive system, including the major organs, the testes, the different glands, prostate, penis, functions, hormones. Same for females, the uterus, the different parts, including the function. So all of this is are the systems that we're going to cover. Integumentary system, this is what I talked about. Skin and anything related to the skin. I think we have a whole chapter discussing this. This is just generally speaking. it is skin and things related to the skin. What's related to the skin? Look at yourself. What do I have here with my skin? Nail, yes. Hair, yes. Sweat glands, different glands, yes. These are all covered. And the function is basically protection. It's covering our body, regulating body temperature. We will discuss the details. Sensation, something touch you, something painful, and so on. Skeletal system, bones, and everything related to the bones. Cartilage that cover parts of the bone. Ligaments hold the bones together. Um, Bone marrow, the inside of the bones that produce blood cells. And the function is obviously why do you think you have bones? Keep your body shape, protection, like here, the bone protecting what's inside. Bone marrow is making blood cells. Storage, we store calcium and minerals in our bone. Muscular system, muscles, and things related to the muscles. Tendon, for example, which is attachment of the muscle to the bone. We call it a tendon. And this is basically for movement, also production of heat and protection as well, like these muscles of the abdomen. We have it to protect the organs behind it. Nervous system, brain, spinal cord. This is in the center of the body, central nervous system. And then the peripheral nerves, connections like wires, and sensory organs. Obviously, we know nervous system is to control our body and get sensation, get information, and produce motor commands. Endocrine system, another management of the body. Nervous and endocrine system, both of them. This is a management of the body. The difference is nervous system, immediate control of the body. I touch something hot, I remove my hand right away, immediate action, nervous system. Slow action, this is the endocrine system. My blood sugar goes down. My calcium goes down in the blood. Are you going to, just like this, return it back? Of course not. You have to get the value, and you start to make the hormones, take some time, and the hormones work, and so on. So it takes time. It's a long term. Cardiovascular system, heart and blood vessels, distributing the blood and oxygen and carbon dioxide. Um, I'm moving fast in this because, again, this is just an introduction. I'm just giving you an idea. So lymphatic system is our protection, protect our body. Some organs are involved, like the spleen and thymus, and some lymph nodes, some tissues, and the function is body defense, mainly body defense, but it also return extra fluid in between the cells. We will discuss it. Respiratory system, your system that get oxygen, get rid of carbon dioxide, basically. So include lungs and bronchial tree, larynx, trachea, nasal sinuses, and so on. Again, most important is gaining oxygen, getting rid of carbon dioxide. Digestive system, you eat, you digest, you absorb food with the different organs, starting from the mouth, ending at the anus, plus accessory structures like liver and gallbladder and pancreas. Urinary system, kidneys, we have two kidneys. Ureters, to take the urine from the kidney, makes urine. We take the urine from the kidney to the bladder to store it temporarily through the ureters. Bladder, temporary storage. Urethra, take the urine out, and obviously the urinary system is to make urine, get rid of the waste products, and also controlling the composition of the blood. Anything extra in the blood, we get rid of it. Anything low in the blood, we retrieve it or keep it. Male reproductive, not only the male organs, it's also the hormones. Same thing for females, female organs, different organs. So you make the sex cells and plus um, making hormones. But for females specifically, there is extra, which is the mammary gland for milk production, and sexual intercourse, of course, for both of them. So medical terminology is what I talked about, prefixes and suffixes. And again, I'm going to uh, cover you with all these prefixes and suffixes. If you already know medical terminology, that will make your life a lot easier. If not, just an advice. When I give you medical terminology, I will give you a lot, all what you need, prefixes and suffixes. If you can write it down or take it later from the video or something, that's a very good idea. I'm telling you from experience. I graduated medical school and I know exactly what we used there. Of course, here it's a lot lighter, but it's the same idea. It's a language, right? Like you're learning Japanese. It's a new language. And this is the rules of the language. Prefixes, suffixes. Put them together, you get the meaning. Okay. Um, Anatomical landmarks. Again, this is for understanding. And the first three things that we need to know are anatomical position. You have to know this. Later you will see it. And anatomical position is basically like this. You can see me here, standing straight. My upper limb is beside my body, not touching and not far away, just like this. The palm is forward. We have to be specific like this. Okay? Straight, palm forward. The upper limb is beside your body. This is the anatomical position. And the importance is when we say right or left or front or back or anything, we relate to this one. The others are other positions, but anatomical position is usually when you say when you describe something, you're assuming anatomical position. Supine is if you're laying on your back, face up. Prone is the opposite. You're laying down, face down. You're laying on your stomach. So these are the positions. Next part is this is part of the medical terminology. Even though I'm not going to ask you what's cranial meaning, what's the meaning of facial. This is not a medical terminology class. But do you need this? 100%. Yes. If you know this, it will make everything later a lot easier. Okay? So we're not using English anymore. Anatomy is Greek and Latin. Physiology, part of it is Greek and Latin. But anatomy is Greek and Latin. So cephalic means head, cranial means skull, facial related to the face, frontal, nasal, oculus is eye in Greek, otic ear, buccal cheek, cervical means neck. This is what you're going to use, by the way. Like cervical plexus. Can we say neck plexus? Neck? Cervix means neck. No, you can't. It's only Greek and Latin. All anatomy is like this. So if you know cervix, cervical plexus, yes, plexus in the neck. So you already know. Um, Cranial nerves. Can I say the skull nerves? No, you can't. You have to use cranial nerves. Cranial means skull. Oral, mouth, mental, mentis. This is Greek or Latin for chin. Thoracic. You don't say chest, you say thoracic. Thorax. Axilla. We don't use armpit. Armpit is English. Axilla, and so on. Brachium, arm. Brachial plexus, the nerves of the arm. Can I say the nerves of the arm? No. Brachial plexus, and so on. Antecubital, the front of the elbow. Abdominal, mammary means breast. Thorax is the chest. Mammary, abdominal, and all of this together is called the trunk. From here to here. Anything but the upper limbs and lower limb, we call this is the trunk. Carpal means rest. So later on, you will see the carpal bones, which is rest bones. So you already know what carpal means. Palmar, palm. Manual, manus means hand in Latin. Pollex is the thumb. Okay, so are we using pollex or thumb? It's pollex, pollex. Digits, fingers. Inguinal, it's the groin here. Pubic, this in the front. Femoral, it means thigh, but you will be using femur, femoral nerve, femoral artery. If you don't know what femur means, you will not know anything else. Femoral artery, what's a femoral artery? Do you know what's femur? Yeah, femur means thigh. Yes, so femoral artery is the artery of the thigh. Okay? Um, Crural, crus means the leg. Tarsal is the ankle. You will see the tarsal bones, for example. Pedal means foot. Digits, same thing. The big toe is called hallux, and you will see the muscles later. You see like flexor hallucis. What's flexor hallucis? Do you know what's hallux? It's your big toe. So flexor hallucis, it what flex your hallux. So you know what's hallux. Flexor pollicis. Do you know pollex? Pollex, your thumb. Flexor pollicis, it moves the thumb. But again, we don't use English anymore. Cephalic means head. Again, acromion, this here. Dorsum means back, upper limb. This is called olecranon. Gluteal means buttocks. So you would be using this term. Popliteal is the back of the knee. This back of the knee. Sural means calf. Calcaneal is the back of your foot. Plantar means like the palm in the hand. It's the plantar of the foot. Anatomical regions, we will talk about quadrants and regions. And this is starting from here. This is one of the things that I can ask you about. We are going to divide the abdominopelvic region, or this is the trunk, right? Anything minus head and neck, upper and lower limb. This is called the trunk. The trunk is chest right here. There is a diaphragm to separate, and then abdomen, and then pelvis. All of them together, trunk. And this is a cavity. Is it empty? No, it is not empty. There are organs in there, and we will talk about it. But again, what is this whole trunk here? Chest, contents, we will talk about it. And then you have the diaphragm to separate from an abdomen and pelvis. Abdomen and pelvis are separated? No, are not separated. So sometimes we call abdominal pelvic region. This is abdominal, this is pelvic. So abdominal pelvic region only, which is under the diaphragm, right? Are we following? You can ask me anytime you want. Okay, just raise your hand and ask about anything you want. This region only, abdominal pelvic region, which is what's under the diaphragm. If you draw an imaginary line, one is longitudinal and the other one is vertical, passing by your umbilicus. You are dividing abdominal pelvic region into 4 quadrants. Right upper, left upper, right lower, left lower. And this is the easy way. The other way, which is something that you guys need to know more, this is important. You're going to divide in a different way. Instead of using just 2 lines to divide, you're using 4 lines. 2 vertical or longitudinal, one on the right side and one on the left side of the umbilicus, and 2 horizontal, one above and one under. So as you see, it's going to divide into 9 different regions. Okay, we call it region versus quadrant. Quad, 1/4, 25. Quad, fourth. So here, this is right hypochondriac, and then epigastric, and then left hypochondriac. What does that mean? Yes, everything here have a meaning. And again, collect these prefixes and suffixes. Hypo, lower. Chondriac, reps. Hypochondriac, the lower part of the ribs. Makes sense now, right? It's this part, the lower part of my ribs, right here. That's why we call it this way. On the right side, same on the left, left hypochondriac. How about this one in between? Epigastric. What does it mean? Epi, superficial to, okay, outside of. Gastric, stomach. Yes, my stomach is here, behind this. It's in here. So epigastric, outside of the stomach. Makes sense. Everything should make sense. Understand? Right lumbar and left lumbar. The lumbar is usually the beginning of the trunk. Like if you look at the tree, they say lumbar. This, the lower parts of the trunk is called lumbar. So this is called lumbar. So right lumbar, left lumbar, and this here is around the umbilicus, so we call it umbilical region. And then inguinal, right inguinal, left inguinal, and in between is hypogastric. What's hypo? I already told you. Hypo, lower, right? Gastric means stomach. Here is your stomach. So this is hypogastric. These are the 9 regions. These are the organs inside each one of those regions. So here it is, like here is a liver, here is intestine, stomach, this is a spleen, small intestine, large intestine. And just to let you guys know, later on, of course, you're taking anatomy and physiology, and then you will take more biomedical sciences in order to qualify for something, for a program later, right? Nursing or physiotherapy or whatever you're going to apply to, right? This is what you're going to actually use, okay? So, like if I see a patient as a doctor, when I see a patient, and specifically like the last year of medical school or something, when you see a patient, you don't say 51 years old patient is suffering from pain in his stomach. What is this? What do you mean? Like in his tummy? What do you mean? In his abdomen? No, no, it doesn't. It's not like this. So later on, this is what you're going to. That's why we're trying to understand this. This is exactly when we write sheet in the hospital. We say 51 years old male patient is suffering from pain in the right hypochondriac region. This is how it goes. Why? Because when you read right hypochondriac right here, so what's here? There is a colon here, and there's the liver and gallbladder. So what comes to my mind is it has to be one of those, right? And we start to analyze. Internal medicine doctors specifically think this way. Where is the pain exactly? Right hypochondriac. Left inguinal region. Left inguinal region. Here is the the ureter, and the last part of the colon. So he might have something in the urinary system. Can you make like urine analysis for me? Can you do stool analysis? Go do both of those and come back. And then, oh, yes, here it is. That's why. This is how it guides you through these, understanding these regions. So it's not a waste of time. It's actually something that's very useful. Directions that we're going to use is also important. If you don't understand this, not because I'm going to ask you what's proximal means. If you don't understand this, you'll get the questions wrong. Simply. So what's proximal and what's distal? Proximal means closer to the point of attachment. Here is my upper limb. How my upper limb is attached to the trunk through the shoulder. If you're closer, we say that's proximal. If you're far away, we say that's distal. Example, this is my biceps, okay? And here's my elbow. One of those is proximal and one of those is distal. Which one is proximal? The biceps is proximal, right? And in this case, the elbow is distal. If I compare the elbow to the rest, the elbow is proximal and the rest is distal. So you're always comparing 2 points. What's closer to the point of attachment, which is different from upper limb to lower limb. Closer is proximal, far away or far is distal. This is one. Medial and lateral. Draw an imaginary line at the center of your body, the middle line, right here. If you're comparing 2 points, one of them is closer to the middle line. We call it medial. One of them is outside, away from the middle line. we call that lateral. Okay? So comparing my cheeks to my ears, my cheeks is medial, isn't it? And my ears is lateral, right? Are we going to use that? Yes, a lot. We have to understand it. We're not wasting any time. Um, Cranial, cephalic means head. So how are we going to use that? Here is an example. The spinal cord start from here to here. This end is closer to the head. We call this the cranial end. And this end right here is closer to the tailbone, right? In animals, they have the tail, right? In humans, it's gone. But this bone is still called the tailbone or the uh, coccyx or coccygeal bone. So, which when you talk about like the spinal cord, which end? The one that's closer to the head or the one that's closer to the tail? Cephalic or cranial versus caudal. Cauda means tail. Greek for tail. Cauda. Cauda. So caudal end. Anterior and posterior. We can use anterior, but the other alternative is ventral. So we are going to say like the ventral aspect of something, the dorsal aspect, the ventral root. What's the ventral root and dorsal root? You already know. Anterior and posterior. Okay, sections, the different sections. This is something that if you're going to specialize in, like if you're going to be like an MRI technologist or CT technologist, whatever, they use these machines that give you something like a section, like as if you get like a cucumber like this, and you can slice it like this, vertical. You can slice it like this, longitudinal. You can do it obliquely like this. This is what the CT, if you ever saw a CT or an MRI before, it's exactly like this, like you're making slices in your body. Slice, 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 slice. So if you look at these pictures, give you like the first slice, like let's say we're looking at the liver. We wanted to know if there is something wrong in the liver. So give you the first section, I don't see anything. Second, nothing. Third, oh, I start to see something here. Next, 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 next. So it will go like cutting it into pieces and you can look inside. So the sections are going to be like this. If you get, if this is a cucumber like this, I get a knife and I can divide it in different ways. The first way is frontal section, also called coronal. Frontal or coronal is like this. So you divide it into front and back. This is called frontal or coronal section. If I cut it like this, I will have right and left, right? We call that sagittal. Okay? So coronal. So sections, we have coronal or frontal. Remember both of them. And then you have the sagittal section. Again, sagittal is like this. You cut it into right and left. But for coronal or frontal, it's like this. You cut it into anterior part or part in the front, half, front half, and back half. Two halves, right? It's different from the sagittal. Sagittal is like this. Is it half and half? Not necessarily. Right part and left part. Right halves? No, not necessarily. If you cut it exactly in the middle and you got two halves, exactly halves, this is called mid-sagittal. It's exactly in the middle. But if you go to the, like this, to the side, so right is smaller than the left, or this way, if it's not equal, you're cutting not in the middle. We call that parasagittal. Mid is middle. Yes. Yes, this is when we say frontal, you're referring to approximately the half. So there are no other alternatives. But for the sagittal, there are alternatives. When you say sagittal, do you mean exactly in the middle or do you mean to the sides? It depends. When you are exactly in the middle, you call it mid. Mid means middle, right? Middle. Para, this is a prefix that means on either side, not in the middle. Okay, parallel, right or left. So it can be one of those. Transverse section, I can cut it like this. Upper part and lower part. Here are the pictures. If you look at this purple here is the coronal section or the frontal. This one here, the blue, sagittal, but in this picture it's mid-sagittal because it's in the middle. And the green here is transverse section. Okay? Does it have to be like the blue here? No, I can go a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, if it is in the middle only. So here it is. This is purple, blue, and green. The purple, again, is frontal or coronal, anterior part and posterior part. Blue, this is the sagittal. In this case, it's mid-sagittal, but you can move it. But if that's the case, you call it parasagittal. The green here is vertical. Okay, now the body cavities. I talked a little bit about this, but again, here is your trunk, okay? There is cavity here. The cavity is divided by the diaphragm. Above the diaphragm, this part of the cavity that's called the chest cavity or the thoracic cavity. Okay, under is abdominopelvic. Well, why don't you say abdominal and pelvic? Because there is no separation, nothing cutting it. So abdominopelvic. And each one of those will have different organs. Serous membranes. This part is something that you need to know. Okay? What are the serous membranes? When you see any membrane from now on, the name comes from the fluid that's secreted, the secretion. If this membrane secrete serous secretion, what do you mean by serous secretion? Serous secretion is something like the serum. It's watery secretion. So we call it serous membranes. There is one of these membranes covering the organ, and the other one is also covering the organ, but one internal and one external. Example, you go to one of the supermarkets and I get watermelon. And I tell them like double the bag for me. Put them in 2 bags because it's heavy, right? There's an inner bag that's in contact with the watermelon, and there's an outer one, right? Lung is the same thing. Exactly. Lung is like the watermelon. Lung, membrane, and another membrane. Heart, same thing. Inner membrane, outer membrane. Your abdominal organs, same thing. The inner one is called visceral. Viscera is organ. So this is the one that's in contact, in touch with the organ. Is that clear? Like in this case with the watermelon, the one that's touching the watermelon, the inner one. This is called visceral. The name comes from viscera, which is in contact with the organ. Okay? The outer one is called parietal. Parietal means external or outside. I'm giving you a lot of medical terminology, but this is going, at certain point, you will see that repeating later. So here is the thoracic cavity, and we're dividing the thoracic cavity into 3 parts. Right pleural, contain the right lung. Left pleural, contain the left lung. And in between, this is called mediastinum. It's coming from middle, mediastinum. This is where the heart is located, the major blood vessels, the esophagus is here. It's in the middle. I will show you the picture. So this is right pleural. Are we following? This is right pleural, containing the right lung. The lung is covered by 2 membranes that you have to know. Left pleural, containing the left lung, also covered by 2. In between, mainly the heart. It's called mediastinum. Is it only the heart? No. Heart and other things. But I'm talking about the heart now. So where is the heart? In the mediastinum, right here in the middle. Also, the heart is surrounded by 2 serous membranes. This cover of the heart is called pericardium or pericardial cavity. Pericardial membranes. What's pericardial? Yes, cut every word into 2 or 3 pieces. It will make sense. Pericardium. Peri, prefix that means surrounding or around. Cardium is heart. So what do you think? Pericardium, surrounding the heart, right? You cut it into pieces and understand it, it will make sense. Pericardium. This is my first time to see it. Yes, but do you know what's peri? Yes, it means around. Do you know what's cardium? Heart. Pericardium around the heart, right? So here it is. This is the whole anterior cavity in the front here. And there is a diaphragm, which is this part here. Above it is the thoracic cavity, which contains 3 subcavities. And under it is abdominopelvic. I told you that the lung is surrounded by 2 bags, right? And what did we call these bags? It's called the pleura, yes, visceral and parietal pleura, right? For the heart, same thing, pericardial, visceral and parietal. For the abdomen, it's different. There is one big uh, bag containing everything, and this is called parietal as well. And each organ is surrounded by its own. Example, supermarket again. I get a big bag like this. I get 1 cucumber in a bag, I put it in that bag. I get 1 watermelon in a bag, and I put it within the big bag. And then I get potato or anything else in its own bag, and I put it in. So we end up having 1 big bag containing everything, and then individually, each organ is surrounded by its own bag, right? The surrounding the organ is visceral. Here, the parietal is surrounding the whole abdomen. Um, does that mean that all the organs in the abdominal pelvic region, all of them are within that big bag? No, there are exceptions that you have to know. There are some exceptions. Not inside this membrane. Okay? What are these organs that you have to know? Pancreas, okay, and ureter. These are the most important ones. My pancreas inside is not inside my peritoneum. No, it's not. It's behind it. Behind it. Like here is the bag. That's behind it. What's behind it in Greek? Retro. Retro is a prefix that means behind. So where is the location of the pancreas? Is it in the peritoneum? No. Retroperitoneum. Retroperitoneum. Behind the peritoneum. Clear? Everything clear so far? Retroperitoneum. Behind. Get this medical terminology. Retro. Behind. Here are the 2 membranes. Like here is an example of the heart. This is the serous. Look at this. This is the serous one. The visceral one. And this is the parietal one. We have 2 layers. Visceral and parietal. In between, it's called the pericardial cavity. What's peri means? Around. So pericardium means around the heart. The pericardium, surrounding of the heart, is 2 layers, and there is a cavity in between. And this is the case for everything else. Here is the right lung. Where is the pleura? Do you see those 2 layers? It's beside each other, but do you see those 2? This one here, if you can see, this is the visceral, and outside here is the parietal. Visceral here is adherent to the lung. Here is the pericardium. Here is the lung. The white here is pleura, the visceral and parietal, and here is the heart, visceral and parietal. So here it is again for the abdominal cavity specifically. There is a visceral that's covering the individual organs, and there is parietal surrounding the whole abdomen. Are all these organs inside the peritoneum? No. Here it is, the word that I was saying, retro. You see this? Retroperitoneal, behind the peritoneal cavity. Here it is. The pancreas, kidney, ureters are the most important ones. Remember this. Pancreas, kidney, ureters. These 3 organs are not in the bag. That's behind it. Pelvic cavity is the lower part, and this contains reproductive organs, this is one, plus the ends of urinary system and digestive system. Homeostasis, homeostasis, definitely question, definitely. Understand this. What's homeostasis? Let's cut it into pieces. Homeostasis. Homeo, homogeneous or stable. Stasis, to keep it. So what's homeostasis? To keep everything within the normal. Everything keep it in the normal range. What's your body temperature? 37 or 98.6. You have to keep it like that. Homeostasis. Keep it, right? What if it goes up? I will bring it down. Keep it. Goes down, bring it back up. Homeostasis. Okay? Stasis, static. Fix it in the normal range. Okay? So this is homeostasis. Homeostasis in order to keep things within the normal range, and we have a lot of examples in that. Everything in your body should stay in the normal range, in the normal functional range. What is my blood sugar, blood glucose? 70 to 110. What if it goes up? You will bring it down. Homeostasis. What if it goes down? You will bring it up. Homeostasis. Temperature, blood pressure, blood volume, anything, anything should be kept within the normal range. Homeostasis. Every organ can regulate itself, and sometimes you have to control it from outside. Okay? How to control it? There will be a receptor to receive the information, send it to a control system that take the information and make an action plan. Effector is what's going to take that action and do it. And I will give you an example to make more sense. But for everything, there is a set point, your air condition. Don't you put it like on 70 or something, right? 70, this is the set point. Is it really 70 all the time in your house? No. It's heat up a little bit, it goes up, but your air condition will kick in and will lower it down, isn't it? If it goes down to 65, your heating unit will turn on and to bring it back, right? Don't we hear that all the time in your house? Like it's turn on and off, right? Yes, what you're doing here is homeostasis of the temperature of your house, right? So if you think about it, and this is exactly what's happening in our body. If you think about it, like who told that unit that it's going up or down, it's heating up or cooling down? How did it know? Of course, you guys know that there are sensors, right? Sensors in our body, it is receptors. So the sensors in the air condition, it's supposed to be 70, right? This is the set point. But now it is 65. Yes, there is receptor that will take that and send it to the brain of the unit. Okay, in this case, it is a control unit. And the control unit will compare it. 65, it's supposed to be 70. So this is low. I have to turn on the heating unit, right? Until it goes up to 70, it's going to stop, right? And the other way around. Same thing exactly in your body. There is a receptor. Control center is either the nervous system or the endocrine system. And the effector is what's going to do the job. What's the effector in the air condition in this example? The air condition or the heating unit, right? You have two effectors. One of them will be used, right? According to the temperature. So here it is. You have the receptor, which is called thermostat. It's going to pick up the temperature, and it's going to send it to the thermostat, and the thermostat will compare it and decide, should I turn on the air condition or the heating unit? Negative feedback, so homeostasis, very important. This is in unit 1. Chapter 1. Later, the vast majority of the chapter is important. But in this one, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to ask you about homeostasis. When I ask you about the cavities, like retroperitoneal, right? Cavities with the membranes, that's one. Homeostasis, that's two, including negative and positive feedback. If you don't understand this, you didn't understand anything from this chapter. Very important. Negative and positive feedback. These are the tools that our body use in order to control. And let's understand it. What's the negative feedback? Negative feedback is the response of the effector to bring back to homeostasis. Bring back to homeostasis. But you're doing the opposite of the signal that you get. Let me explain it. My body temperature right now is 98.6 or 37 degrees centigrade, okay? It's 37. 37 is good. Yes, this is normal. 37, right? It's hot. So my body temperature is going to 38. Are we following? 38. So the receptors will receive it. It's 38. It's not supposed to be 38, right? So what is my body going to do? It will do the opposite. It's going up. What are we going to do? Bring it down. You're doing the opposite. We call that negative feedback. Is that clear? What if it's in the winter? It's getting cold. It's supposed to be 37, but 35. You're going to do up. So the signal is going down, and your action is to bring it back up. Clear? We call that negative feedback. And this is the main tool to control and to do the homeostasis. Negative feedback. Very important to know. So here is a process. You get the signal, you compare it, you decide. If your decision is the opposite of what's happening, we call that negative feedback. And you end up restoring the normal values. Temperature is one example, but everything else will follow the same model. So everything is controlled by negative feedback? No, there are exceptions. Everything minus the following. Examples, a lot of examples. Temperature, body temperature, yes. Blood pressure, yes. If the blood pressure goes up, you bring it down. Isn't your action is the opposite of the change? It goes up, you bring it down, negative, right? It goes down, bring it up, negative. Blood sugar goes up, bring it down, negative, and vice versa. Calcium, magnesium, everything, with two exceptions only, which is the positive feedback. Okay? So what's a positive feedback? You get a signal of something, and your action is to continue the same thing. Make sense? Give you example. Here is a lady during delivery. The baby is being delivered. So the baby is in the uterus and it's pushing on the cervix. Do we know? I think with these are basics, right? Uterus and the cervix, the neck. So the baby's head is going to the cervix, and the uterus start to contract. Okay? A signal come. The uterus is contracting, pushing the baby. A signal come. Receptor. Cervix is stretching. Why is it stretching? Because the uterus is contracting. We get the signal. We secrete oxytocin. Did you hear about oxytocin? Ladies, did you hear about pitocin? Anybody here? Pitocin, it's used in the hospital if the contractions are not enough. Sometimes they inject something in the saline. Did you see that before? This is called pitocin. Yes, pitocin is oxytocin. So pitocin is it's the name of the actual drug, but we have to remember oxytocin. This is our scientific name. It's called oxytocin. Okay? So uterus contracting, pushing the baby. A signal come, go to the brain. The uterus is contracting. What are you going to do? The brain will say, okay, I'm going to secrete oxytocin. Oxytocin go to the uterus to contract more, pushing the baby more, dilating the cervix more. A signal go to the brain. The brain secrete oxytocin more, contracting more. So what was the signal? Contraction. What's the action? More contraction. Make sense? That's positive feedback. Okay, this is one. The other thing is the mammary gland. Okay, when the baby is suckling and getting the milk, the muscles inside are contracting and pushing the milk out. The more he sucks, the more contractions, the more milk. The third one is blood clot. Should I remember that? Of course you should, because everything else is negative feedback. So only remember those. Uterine contraction and blood clot. These are the most important two. Okay? What is a blood clot? Simply, if you're bleeding, is that normal? You're supposed to stop bleeding, right? So you're doing the opposite, right? But actually what's happening is when you start bleeding, your blood start to or the platelets start to come together in order to stop this bleeding, right? So you know what's going to happen? Platelets coming together to seal it, to close it. A signal will go, and this signal will result in more platelets coming to seal it more, giving a signal, and you send more platelets, and then red blood cells come, and the signal comes, and you send more red blood cells. So more platelets, and what you're going to do? More platelets. And then what? More platelets. So the signal is platelets accumulating. And what's your action? Adding more platelets. And then a signal come. What are you going to do? Add more platelets. Isn't that positive? Does that make sense? So the signal is more, and your action is even more, not the opposite. So these are the two feedbacks. Here it is. Here is like a wound or something, and it's bleeding. Look at this. These are the platelets accumulating, and platelets release chemicals. The chemicals attract more. Look at this. Platelets aggregating, and what are you going to do? Add more platelets right here. All our systems are integrated with each other and controlled by the negative and positive feedback in order to achieve the homeostasis. And this is the end of this chapter.